What's going on there, people? This is Derek J407 here to give you my thoughts on the historic first official pay-per-view of AEW All Elite Wrestling Double or Nothing, live from the MGM Grand Arena from Las Vegas, Nevada. Like I said, their historic first show, the new show for this brand new wrestling promotion, started by Cody Rhodes, the Young Bucks, Kenny Omega, and of course the Khan family. And for their first show, All In doesn't count. The show back in September, that show doesn't count. This was their first official show under the new name, under the new company of All Elite Wrestling. And for their first show, it was fucking amazing. Now, I will not say it was perfect. It was not a perfect show. There's clearly still, like no show is really perfect, obviously, but even still, with them being a new company, you can tell they are a new company. They're still figuring some stuff out, and there's still, a few chinks in the armor and all that kind of stuff. There's a few bugs they still need to work out as far as their presentation is concerned. But overall, I thought this show was great, and say what you want to about the show as a whole, but I just cannot fully respect any wrestling fan who has anything negative to say about those final three matches on this show. The last three matches, those three big main event matches on this show with Cody Rhodes and Dustin Rhodes, the AAA Tag Team Championship match, and of course Kenny Omega and Chris Jericho, not even including what happened at the end, which of course we'll get to, but those three matches themselves, if you can't watch those matches and just not fall in love with those, then I just really cannot take you seriously as a true wrestling fan, because those matches were amazing. And not just those, there were some other really great matches on this show as well, and we're gonna get into all of them. But yeah, I was very impressed. Not even just the action, like look at the stage setup, the arena setup. It was great. It looked slick. It looked professional. The graphics and the set, it was a unique looking set. They had pyro. There was blood on this show in at least one of the matches. There were two of the three main event matches. There was blood. One of them, a lot of it, which divided some people's opinions. A lot of things on this show could divide people's opinions, but I can't praise it enough, man. I'm really impressed with what these guys managed to put together for this show, and I'm looking forward to seeing what they do going forward in the future. So let's just start from the very beginning. We'll start with the pre-show, the buy-in, that aired, of course, on Bleacher Report Live and YouTube and all that kind of stuff. Although there was some trouble with it airing on YouTube, it kind of cut in a little bit late in the Battle Royal. So for some reason, the stream wasn't working on YouTube for the first couple minutes of this thing, but eventually it got sorted out. But yes, the buy-in, we had the Casino Battle Royale. And just to name a few of the participants in this match, of course, MJF, what's his name? Maxwell Jacob Freeman. You got Billy Gunn in here, Bad Boy Joey Janela, Shawn Spears, the former Ty Dillinger. You had the Luchasaurus, Tommy Dreamer, Marco Stunt, Jimmy Havoc, Sonny Kiss, the tag team of Private Party, Jungle Boy, the son of Luke Perry, the late great Luke Perry, and of course the surprise participant who got the Joker card, Hangman Page, who everyone and their grandmama could have predicted would be the person to be the surprise person in this match, solely based on the fact that his original match with Pac on this show got canceled due to creative differences between apparently Pac and the higher ups in AEW. But so yeah, they did that match at a house show in where was it? Was it in Newcastle? It was somewhere over in the UK about a week ago. And in that match, it ended in a DQ. It caused a Pac, injured Page's knee, and that's why he had the knee injury going to this show. But yeah, some of the stuff in this match, not a whole lot of standout things, although everyone did get a chance to stand out. At one point, the Luchasaurus, he chokeslammed Joey Janela out of the ring through an already set up table, and my God, the way Janela landed was just brutal looking. There's this guy in this match named Orange Cassidy. I'm not familiar with him. I've never seen him before, but he has this whole nonchalant gimmick where he just does barely any offense, but it's it's offense, but it's like it's not lethal whatever at all. But they play it up like that, and he got eliminated, and it didn't seem to faze him. So that's somebody to probably look out for if that's something that continues on. Jimmy Havoc was in this match. He's a death match guy, so you know some shit was gonna come out, and he used a staple gun. He used it on, of course, Tommy Dreamer. But in the end, it came down to Paige and the Luchasaurus. Paige managed to eliminate him, but MJF tried to sneak up from behind because he was never eliminated. He tried to sneak up from behind to get the elimination, but Paige managed to cling onto the ropes, got back in the ring, hit his wicked lariat, and dumped out MJF to get the victory. So Paige, by winning this match, is guaranteed a match to participate in the match to determine the first ever All Elite World Champion. So, like I said, very predictable outcome here with Hangman Page, but still good. And then the next match on the pre-show basically was Sammy Guevara, the best ever, that's his nickname, and Kip Sabian. Pretty solid match. It started a little slow. The fans were really all that into it, but as it went on, they really got into it. Especially Sammy Guevara. He's not the best ever, not even close, but he is pretty good. At one point, he had Sabian like draped over the barricade on the outside, and then off the ring apron, he hit a shooting star press right onto Sabian. Sammy Guevara did, and I thought that was really good. But in the end, Guevara attempted a 630 splash. He missed it, and Kip Sabian ended up hitting him with a inverted fisherman slam and got the win. So good little win there and for a solid little match. And then they had the cast of Being the Elite, you know, Cody, Brandy, the Young Bucks, Omega. They all came out to basically start the show. And the show started. We had the commentary team of Excalibur. I'm not familiar with this next guy, Alex Parvez or Marvez, something like that. And of course, good old JR, Jim Ross. They started a little rocky in the beginning. The Alex guy wasn't too great. Excalibur was pretty good throughout the whole thing. And JR, he was a little rocky at first, but as the shows went on, and especially for those last couple of matches, he was really into it. But the show kicked off with a 6-man tag team match. The team of SCU, SoCal Uncensored, Frankie Kazarian, Scorpio Sky, and Christopher Daniels taking on the Strong Hearts, Chima, T-Hawk, and Lindelman of the OWE promotion in China. So probably the biggest platform those guys have gotten the chance to perform in front of, I'm sure. And they went out there and tore the house down. A great opener for this show. A lot of crazy action. Of course, Daniels is like, what is he, like 48 years old? He looks amazing. Dude is just as good in the ring today and looks just as great as he did the very first time I saw him well over 10 or 15 years ago, wrestling originally in Ring of Honor. And he's great. He's fantastic. And speaking of fantastic, these the guys in this Strong Heart tag team, they were really good. Chima, I think he has the most experience out of all of them. I think Lindelman, he has the least amount of experience. And of course, T-Hawk is somewhere in the middle of all of them. But all of them were really good. But it was in the end that SCU, who of course were extremely over with the crowd, they got the win, hit the best Meltzer ever on Lindelman to get the win. So a strong win for the SCU guys right from the beginning, and a great way to start the show. Up next was what was supposed to be a triple threat match with some of the women of AEW. We have Kylie Rae, Nyla Rose, and Dr. Britt Baker, DMD. But we had Brandy Rhodes. She came out and she said that, yeah, I said I want, any one of you could win, and I said this match could be great, but I don't want a great match. I want an awesome match. Now, she came out seemingly in her ring gear, looking like she was about to add herself, but then she said awesome, and I thought there's no way it could possibly be, and sure enough, out came Awesome Kong. Awesome Kong, former knockout in TNA many years ago. For a cup of coffee, she was Karma in WWE, and I forget what the character's name is, but she is the large black woman on the cast of Glow on Netflix. So any of those routes, I'm sure you've seen her before, and she was a surprise person to add to this match to make it a fatal four-way match. The match itself was pretty good, nothing overly special. All the women got a chance to shine. Of course, the two biggest women in this match, I was about to say Karma, Kong and Nyla Rose, of course, they faced off at one point. And you had Britt Baker and Kylie Rae, they faced off, and then all of them kind of mixed and tangled with each other. They were all trying to take down Awesome Kong at different points. Of course, any kind of multi-person match, you always get the traditional Tower of Doom spot, and that's basically what we got here at one point. Kong, she just slammed everyone, but narrowing it down, they managed to all dispose of Awesome Kong. She got, I believe, super kicked by Britt Baker on the ring apron. Then she got knocked off the apron by Kylie Rae, and then she got speared by Nyla Rose into the steel steps out there on the outside. So back in the ring, it came down to Kylie Rae and Britt Baker. Kylie Rae, I'm not extremely familiar with her. Her gimmick is very similar to that of Bayley, which I think was the impetus for like one of the press conferences. Cody made some remark that was kind of a slight against Bayley. I'm not sure if it was in reference to this character or not. I would assume so, and I know that got a lot of people riled up. And yeah, Bayley, she doesn't play her character up that much to that degree anymore. To not the degree of smiling Kylie Rae and this character, but that's basically how her character originated. And I'm not gonna really get into all that, but yeah, it came down to Rae and Baker. At one point, Baker super kicked Kylie so hard that one of her ribbons, she has ribbons on her gear, her ribbon just kind of flew off. She ended up hitting a brain buster on Rae onto her knee and got the win. It seemed kind of off because it didn't immediately play her music, so that kind of got the thought of, uh-oh, I hope this wasn't a botch or anything like that, but it looked like that was the intended outcome. So Britt Baker gets the win, and that was that. Up next was a standard tag team match. The Best Friends, Chuck Taylor and Beretta, taking on a team of Jack Evans and Angelico. Apparently the Best Friends, they threatened Cody and the Bucks. They threatened their families to get a match on the main show. They were originally supposed to be in the Casino Battle Royale, and they wanted a match on the main card of this show. So they basically threatened their way onto it, and they got their wish, and they got a match with Jack Evans and Angelico. I know these guys compete in AAA down in Mexico and all that kind of stuff, but I'm most familiar with them from Lucha Underground, a show that is most likely never to ever have season 4, I believe is what they would have been on. There's probably never going to be another season of that show ever again, but hey, I get my fix of Angelico and Jack Evans through AEW, so there you go. Really good tag team match. You got these 4 guys in there, all great athletes, especially Evans and Angelico. So a lot of really cool stuff. At one point, Chuck Taylor, he got he saved Beretta because Beretta got hit with the 630. He got hit with a crucifix power bomb by Angelico. Then he got hit with a 630 splash by Jack Evans, and it was almost a 3 count, but Chuck Taylor managed to save Beretta to get the win. To get the save, they got the win when Taylor hit a diving stomp on Beretta into a reverse pile driver to get the win. So Beretta and Chuck Taylor and Beretta get the win. After the match, they were going for a handshake, Evans and Angelico, but Beretta and Taylor didn't want that. They wanted a hug. So they were going for the hug. It looked like we were about to get it. Then the lights went out, and the lights came back on, and it was one guy in a kilt and another masked guy standing there in the middle of the ring. Lights went out again, and then when they came back on, some minions who were also wearing masks. They surrounded the ring and they attacked the two teams and laid them out. The two main guys, they hit this really cool finisher to lay out. I believe it was Beretta, who is the one that I think it was it was Beretta. I was gonna say Jack Evans, but I'm pretty sure it was Beretta who got laid out there. But they got met with "Who are you?" chants, and I saw a lot of people asking the same thing. But they are the Super Smash Brothers. I don't remember their names. I think one of them, the masked person, I think is Evil Uno. I think that's his name. But they are apparently the Super Smash Brothers. And the AEW Tag Team Division runs deep. So a great match. And hey, they put over a new team to come in and wipe them all out at the end. So that was pretty cool. The commentators made an announcement up next that All Out, basically the sequel to All In, is going to come on August 31st, once again at the Sears Center in Chicago, Illinois, and tickets will be going on sale June 14th. So I enjoyed All In last year on pay-per-view, and I'm thinking June 14th is around the corner. My money is pretty good right now. I don't have anything currently scheduled for August 31st. Plans to change, of course, but I think I might go ahead and snag me some tickets. So we'll see about that. Up next, we've got a 6-woman tag team match with some Joshi competition, some Japanese talent here. We have the team of Ryo Mizunami, and Hikaru Shida versus Yuka Sakazaki, Emi Sakura, and the legendary Aja Kong. This was a really fun match. This style, or I don't know if it's really called style, but it's just, kind of the way this kind of match is. It was a Joshi match with some women, and it was really fun. There was a lot of fun spots. The women, all of them, were a lot of fun to watch, especially Ryo. Not Ryo Mizunami, but the regular Ryo. She was a lot of fun in the match. Of course, Aja Kong, she's a legend, and not just female wrestling, but wrestling in general, like the commentator said. She was a little slow in the ring, but she was still pretty much a powerhouse throughout the whole thing. The match was pretty much, especially down the stretch, Shida was the one who was getting the most offense in on Team Aja Kong, pretty much. There was a really sick back suplex spot with Aja Kong and Ryo. She gave her a back suplex, and it just looked like she just landed right on her neck. It was brutal. At one point, Kong had a can, like it looked like a trash can or something. It was some metal can in her hand, and Shida had a kendo stick, and they kind of were battling back and forth with those weapons behind the referee. A "We Will Rock You" chant started at one point. This was insanity. Sakura, she ended up hitting a moonsault on Shida, got the 2 count, but the timekeeper went ahead and rang the bell anyway, and it sounded like kind of faintly in the background that the music was starting to play, but the referee was like saying no, it was a 2 count, it was a 2. And this led to a "you fucked up" chant. So it was unfortunate that we got a botch like that, but it didn't stop anything. The match ended but only a couple seconds later. Shida hit a running knee on Sakura to get the win for her team. So like I said, really fun match. It went a lot longer than I thought, but seeing how the show ended with plenty of time to spare, it really wasn't that big of a deal. But fun stuff here. Speaking of fun stuff, I don't know if what came up next was fun, but it was definitely damn emotional, and that was the brother versus brother match, the Battle of the Rhodes Brothers, Cody versus Dustin Rhodes. the build to this match has just been excellent, far and away exceeding any build up to the match, the one match they had at a Fastlane pay-per-view back in 2015 in WWE, which was just a complete waste of any story that they could have told with Cody and Goldust back then. But yeah, we got the match here, and the storytelling was off the charts. But before the match even started, we had Cody's entrance. His entrance consisted of a throne sitting at the top of the stage with a symbol that looked pretty damn similar to the symbol that we usually see associated with Triple H and his big fancy entrances and his whole King of Kings mantra and all that kind of stuff. So Cody walked around the throne. He had his own royal garb on. He walks out with Brandy. They get to the ringside, and Brandy goes under the ring and pulls out a sledgehammer and gives it to Cody. Cody turns around, rushes back up the stage, gets to the top right by the throne, and the fans are just cheering their asses off for it. They're egging him on. They know what's about to happen. He takes the sledgehammer and just destroys the whole throne, and basically a shot at WWE and Triple H. Maybe his own form of revenge and his own version of that pissant company remark that Triple H made at the Hall of Fame on the same night as the ROH New Japan show. That's my only assumption. But yeah, so Cody, he was over with the crowd at that point, but that went right out the window when the match started. He was full heel in the match against Dustin, and that's how the match was played out. Early on, both men kind of went back and forth with a Stardust taunts. Tants, Jesus Christ. It was a combination of chants and taunts. I was thinking of chants because the crowd was chanting Dusty before they even locked up, and at different points during the match and even after the match, there was a Dusty Rhodes chant. So I thought that was cool. But nah, they were doing the Stardust symbol to each other at different points early on in the match. But the match was really good. Cody was getting a lot of heat put on him, but things didn't really kick into higher gear until Cody was by the turnbuckle in the corner. He revealed and undid the middle turnbuckle to expose the steel. Dustin ended up, I think he was the one who threw it into the crowd, and when he charged at Cody, he got driven face first into the exposed steel and ended up getting busted open. Now, of course, he bladed, and clearly he hit an artery similar to what Eddie Guerrero did back at Judgment Day 2004 and Vince McMahon at Survivor Series 2003. John Cena at Judgment Day 2005, just to name a few. I'm sure there's thousands more. Name almost any Ric Flair match from the 80s and 90s, 2000s, 2010s, whatever. But yeah, Dustin, now his face paint, he had face paint on and it covered one side of his face and it was red. So when he got busted open here and he was just bleeding a gusher, it basically took over his whole face. You didn't know where the paint was, if it was all blood. It was a very interesting sight to behold, and I saw mixed reactions to it on Twitter. Some people thought it really added to the match and add to the drama of the story that they were telling. Some people thought, it was a little excessive and it kind of took away from the match. I'm not going to say those people are stupid or they don't know what they're talking about, but this is just something that used to be commonplace back in the day. I mean, it was even before my time, but even when I started watching wrestling, I got into an era where there was blood a lot, and there would be matches where there would be more blood than what we saw in this one. There'd be matches where both men were bleeding that much, and it didn't take anything away from me. I thought it added a lot to it. It put a lot more heat on Cody. It made Dustin a lot more sympathetic, and I think it worked. It worked a lot in this one. Cody, at one point, he removed his weightlifting belt, and he went to use it, but then he kind of turned his back to the referee and to Dustin, and Dustin ended up getting the belt. Cody went up to the turnbuckle, and Dustin pulled his pants down and ended up whooping his ass, literally with the belt, whooping his ass. So I thought that was that was pretty funny. Brandy, she was on the outside. She was causing all kinds of distractions. At one point, I think she even speared Dustin. But Earl Hebner, who was the referee, he had enough, and he tossed her ass out. And she refused to leave. And so we saw DDP come out, Diamond Dallas Page, the same Diamond Dallas Page who was in Cody's corner at All In when he challenged Nick Aldis for the NWA Championship. He came out there on this show here and picked up Brandy, put her over his shoulder, and carried her all the way back to the back. So it was Cody and Dustin one-on-one from then on. There was a lot of back and forth with the Crossroads move. At one point, Dustin hit a superplex off the top rope. It kind of got botched a little bit, but it was still effective. It still hit. The move still landed. Like I said, Battle of Crossroads. Dustin at one point hit Crossroads, and Cody kicked out of it. Dustin was going for it again, but then with the referee, kind of his vision was blocked, and Cody hit a low blow on Dustin, went up for the beautiful disaster kick, and hit his own version of the Crossroads, and got a 2 count. Dustin hit the move one more time, and again, only good for a 2. But Cody hit the move one final time, Crossroads one final time, and got the win. So Cody beats his older brother right here on Double or Nothing. After the match, Cody went to leave, but he rushed back into the ring. Dustin is kneeling in the middle of the ring, trying to undo his boots or whatever. He backs up into the corner when Cody gets back in the ring. He's still a bloody mess. And Cody gets back on the microphone and says, we have another show coming up, either next month, I think it's in July. The Fight for the Fallen. That's their show where all the proceeds, I believe, it's a show that's dedicated to anti-gun violence and all that kind of stuff. But he said that he signed on for a match onto that show, a tag team match with himself and a partner of his choosing against the Young Bucks. And he said he doesn't need a partner, he doesn't need a friend, he needs a brother to be in that match. And the two of them hugged. They embraced after this hard-fought, bloody brawl that they just had. And they embraced, and basically Dustin accepted his offer to be his partner. So it appears on that show we will be getting Cody and Dustin Rhodes against the Young Bucks. So that's a pretty cool match to see on that show. And this right here was a pretty cool match. Like I said, a great story that was told. These two brothers just going at it, and Dustin, the grizzled old vet, trying to hang in there with his younger brother, his faster, younger brother, and just a bloody mess, trying to do the best he can to stay in there and beat him, but in the end, just couldn't get the job done. But he still earned the love and respect of his brother, so much so that he went in to be his tag team partner, and that was that. Up next, we had the unveiling of the AEW Championship, and the person to do the unveiling was introduced to be Bret the Hitman Hart, 2-time Hall of Famer. He came out there, he botched his lines a little bit, but the crowd forgave him for it. He brought out Hangman Page, the winner of the Battle Royal earlier in the night, came out to the ring and was interrupted by MJF. Like I said, Maxwell, Jacob Freeman, a great heel. Reminds me a lot of The Miz, Chris Jericho, a little bit of Dolph Ziggler in there. A combination of a lot of cocky, chicken shit heels. He was talking a lot of shit about Bret Hart even. Like he taunted him at one point, like, oh look out, Bret, there's a fan. Taunting the incident that happened at the Hall of Fame. He was talking shit about Hangman Page, saying like, you're a horse, and you know what happens with horses, when they get a bad leg, like Page has, and you gotta take him out back and blow the brains out and all that kind of stuff. He was telling Page to surrender his title opportunity and give it to him. He got a little close to the ring. He taunted Brett again with the whole best there is, best there was catchphrase. Page took a swing at him, but he tried to leave, and he was met by Jungle Boy in the entranceway. He managed to get past him, but then Jimmy Havoc's music played. He came out, and all three men surrounded MJF, and they started to beat down on him. All of them threw a punch at him, and Jungle Boy and Jimmy Havoc started to fight him off into the crowd. Meanwhile, back in the ring, Brett said, "I had enough of all this shit. I'm just going to pull out the belt right now." So he pulls out the championship belt, holds it high up in the air, and it's a gorgeous looking championship belt. I like the design a lot. It looks like a championship that you would see probably in New Japan. It looks beautiful, and I look forward to seeing whose waist it is around when the time comes to crowning the champion. Hangman Page. Sorry. So there was that. Up next, the lone championship match of this entire show, the AAA Tag Team Championship match. The champions, Matt and Nick Jackson, the Young Bucks, defending against the Lucha Bros, Rey Fenix, and of course Pentagon Jr. Now, listen to the names that I just said. The Young Bucks versus Pentagon Jr. and Phoenix. What the hell do you think this match was? If your answer is anything less than outstanding, then you must be very new here, because you go into this match with extremely high expectations, and even still, these guys far and away exceeded those expectations. This was the best match of the entire night. If you are just full-on storytelling kind of person, then Cody and Dustin was probably for you. And I guess even to a certain degree the main event with Jericho and Omega was. But this match was great, and it had its own storytelling. Early on, in a few spots in the match, there was miscommunication with the Young Bucks. They weren't really clicking as a team, and that's because they took some time off recently. They haven't really teamed a whole lot in the past couple of weeks or month or so because of some of their injuries and stuff. So they're trying to get back into the swing of things and get back on the same page and all that kind of stuff. And of course, the faster, hungrier team of Phoenix and Pentagon, who got embarrassed in Mexico when the Young Bucks came down to take their titles. Was it in Mexico when it happened? Wherever that show was at, where they came in and stole their titles from them. Like, they're hungry and they want those belts back, and you can't be miscommunicating like the Bucks were at certain points in this match against a team like that. So there was a story being told here, and it was a great story because this was a fucking awesome match. I literally have in my notes here, Phoenix is amazing. So that's literally one of my notes. I could say the same thing about any of the guys in this match, but Phoenix especially was amazing in this match. He pulled off some really, really great spots. Speaking of great spots, it's a Young Bucks match, so you know you're going to get a super kick party, although the one in this match was a little brief, but it was still cool. Speaking of cool, there was another spot where Pentagon hit a Mexican destroyer on Matt on the ring apron. Meanwhile, in the ring, Phoenix hit another Mexican destroyer on Nick, and he went for the pin, but it was only good for a 2 count. A little bit later, Matt got Phoenix up on the top rope. It looked like he was going for a superplex, but instead, he dropped down and hit him with a brainbuster right on top of the top turnbuckle. The Bucks hit more bang for your buck on Pentagon, and it was only good for a 2 count. So you don't really see a lot of people kick out of that move too much. Pentagon, a little bit later on, did the arm snap on Matt. Phoenix and Nick were fighting up the ramp on top of the stage, and Nick was left laid out up there. So Phoenix and Pentagon had Matt ult themselves. They were double teaming him for a while, but Matt eventually fought back, and Nick got back into things, and Matt ended up holding Phoenix in position for a tombstone pile driver, of course setting up for the Meltzer driver, but of course his arm just got snapped not too long ago by Pentagon, so of course his arm's pretty wonky, and he could only really hold him with one arm. It looked like he was going to drop him, but he managed to hold on to him long enough for Nick to dive off, hit the Meltzer driver, and the Young Bucks got the win. This one shocked me. Of all the finishes on this show, this one shocked me the most. I was so sure the Lucha Brothers were gonna win, but nah, it was the Young Bucks. Throughout all the miscommunication, all that kind of stuff, confusion, and kind of ring rust almost, they fought back from it and got the win and retained their titles. So big win for the Young Bucks, and this was a great match. I look forward to seeing these guys wrestle again in the very near future. So great stuff here. And then, of course, that leads us to the main event, Kenny Omega versus Chris Jericho, where the winner of this match will go on to face Hangman Page at a later date to crown the first ever AEW World Heavyweight Champion. Now, for Chris Jericho's entrance, he had all the different versions of Chris Jericho before his current incarnation. We saw Lionheart Chris Jericho, we saw The List Chris Jericho, and we saw Light Bright Jacket Chris Jericho before ultimately it stayed on Evil Chris Jericho, the man with the jacket with spikes and the hat and the long hair and the distracting dad bod. But yeah, that distracting dad bod still put on a hell of a main event. This was a fun match. They fought around ringside early on, and at one point Omega was up on the barricade going for a moonsault, but the barricade was a little wobbly, and it looked like Jericho kind of saved him from falling backwards, but in doing so, he just kind of pushed him forward, and Omega landed in the front row. I think his face hit the knees of some of the people who were sitting there in the front row, so I thought that was a pretty unique spot. He saved him while also further doing damage to him. At one point over the course of the match, Omega got a bloody nose. It looked pretty gruesome. The blood spilling from his nose got into his mouth a little bit. Clearly not as much blood as the Cody Dustin match, but it was enough. At one point, Jericho got a table. Omega was still in the ring. He was going for his Terminator Rise Up dive, but Jericho got a table out from underneath the ring. He was on the outside, and he was trying to use it to block him. But that didn't stop Omega, because he went for his over-the-top plancha and connected with Jericho. And the table, when he hit the table kind of landed on Jericho's arm. So he did some damage there. He did more damage to Jericho with the table, and he even had the table. He had Jericho laid out on the outside with the table on top of him. And back in the ring, Omega hit a springboard diving foot stomp onto the table, driving it right into Chris Jericho. So I thought that was probably the best spot in this whole match. There were a bunch of lion salts from Chris Jericho a little bit later. Omega, he attempted, I should say, to hit the Tiger Driver, but Jericho kind of was trying to wiggle his way out of it, and he ended up giving Omega a back body drop over the top rope and landed through the table, which got reset up by, I guess, Jericho. I don't recall seeing when it got reset up, but he got back body dropped over the top rope and landed through the table on the outside. A little bit later, Jericho was attempting a superplex, but Omega managed to knock him down. Omega went for a dive, but got caught in midair with a code breaker. Omega, a little bit later, tried to hit a V-trigger, but it got blocked into the walls of Jericho, which got turned into the Lion Tamer, which is far more devastating. But Omega managed to escape it, and he gave Jericho a punch and a V-trigger. He went up for the One-Winged Angel, but that got turned into a DDT. I think that happened twice. But in the end, it was Jericho who hit the code breaker and then got Omega back up and hit him with the Judas effect, which is a pretty stiff back elbow shot right to the face. And that was all she wrote. Got the 1, 2, 3. And Chris Jericho with a clean win over Kenny Omega in this match, officially making him the man to face Hangman Page for the inaugural AEW World Championship. I expected Chris Jericho to win, mainly because Jericho won the first match these two had at Wrestle Kingdom a few years ago. So I expected Jericho to win, but I did not think he was going to be clean with a back elbow. um, so yeah, a great match. I don't know how I would stack it up against their first match. I think maybe I like the first match a little bit better, mainly because there was a whole different thing behind that with it being so much different. But yeah, still a great match here. But of course, the story of this whole thing did not end with the match. It started post-match, where after the match, Jericho got on the microphone. He was saying, "You owe all the success AEW has had so far to me." And I said, after I beat Omega, I want to thank you from AEW and all you fans. So I'm waiting on my thank you. I demand a thank you. And we hear a commotion in the crowd, and then we cut to the crowd, and walking right through it on his way to the ring was Jon Moxley, the former Dean Ambrose from WWE, who recently left the company as of like a month ago. His contract ran out after about 12 dozen last Shield matches and a bunch of jobs on TV. He waited out of his contract. There was no getting him to re-sign. He left. He's been off the face of the earth pretty much for the past month. We saw a little vignette of his on his Twitter page a few weeks ago. And aside from that, it's been radio silence. But I think everyone expected him to appear on this show, and we got him. Of course, Vegas went apeshit for him. They went ballistic when this guy hit the ring. And Jericho eventually turned around and got laid out with dirty deeds from Moxley. A referee was getting in his face too. He laid out the referee with dirty deeds, and Omega was still in the middle of the ring. He was kind of laid out. Moxley, that is, was pulling him up and was going to hit the move on him, and he attempted to, but then Omega kind of bum rushed him, and the two tumbled out of the ring, and they just started a brawl, which the fans went even crazier for. They brawled into the crowd, all throughout the crowd, and they ended up on the side of the stage where it was a Vegas themed stage setup, so they had some poker chips, like these huge poker chips on the side, and the two managed to fight their way over near there, and that's where Moxley finally finished him off with dirty deeds on top of the chips and ended up launching him off. And Omega, I don't know if he went through a table or if he went through the stage or what, he crashed through something, and that's where the show went off the air with Jon Moxley standing tall. Like I said, I think a lot of people saw it coming, but who gives a shit? It was still awesome to see Jon fucking Moxley back, looking like a complete deranged badass maniac, laying waste to all wrestlers, all referees, anyone in his way, looking just completely cool. And yeah, couldn't think of a better way to end the show than that. A guy like him is gonna help bring a lot of eyeballs to the company, and they're gonna need it when they move to TNT this fall. I believe it'll be in is it October when they're gonna debut on TNT? We still don't know what night they're gonna be on, but they are coming to TNT, and it's great. It's great news for them. I'm looking forward to it. And with shows like this, I'm looking forward to it even more. Now, before that, they have a few other shows. Like I said, the Fight for the Fallen show, they have it in the summer. I feel like that's just going to be that's going to be a little less newsworthy and just kind of like a charity show almost. But they do have All Out in August, on August 31st. So that should be a lot of fun. It's in Chicago, and a certain Chicagoan was doing his own mixed martial arts thing on this night, which is why I didn't think he would appear, but I do expect him to appear either on their debut show whenever they finally air on their AEW television show on TNT. I expect him to either debut there or at All Out, but I fully expect that certain person to appear in CM Punk. I'm not going to dance around it. You know who the hell I'm talking about. CM Punk. I fully expect CM Punk to debut with AEW at some point, either at All Out or on their first show on TNT. Now, as for when they're going to crown their first AEW champion, I expect that to also be on All Out, and Hangman Page and Chris Jericho be the main event of that show. Chris Jericho could be walking into that as the new IWGP Heavyweight Champion, because Chris Jericho has an IWGP Heavyweight title match against Kazuchika Okada next week on the Dominion show. So Jericho pulling double duty for All Elite Wrestling and New Japan. So I'm looking forward to that show. But yeah, that about does it for this one. Like I said, it was a great show, a debut for AEW that was awesome. A lot of great matches, a lot of great stories were told, some great surprises, like I mentioned, Awesome Kong, of course, Jon Moxley at the end. Great, like I said, great stories, like with Cody and Dustin. Great matches with the Young Bucks and Pentagon and Phoenix. A lot of different versions of wrestling. We got a brawl, we got great tag team wrestling, we had like a bloody war between brothers, we had a Joshi match, just a fun little tag team match. We had a lot of great stuff on this show. It's hard to come away with it not satisfied. So I'm still all in with All Elite Wrestling, and I look forward to seeing what they do in the future. So until next time, talk to you guys later.